Welcome to the Missouri Press Association Candidates Forum. My name is David Lieb, and I'm the Missouri Capitol correspondent for the Associated Press. This is a forum for Missouri's 4 state auditor candidates. We have with us today Libertarian Party candidate Charles Baum, Republican Platte County Auditor Sandra Thomas, Democrat Buchanan County Auditor Susan Monty, Progressive Party candidate Terry Bunker. Before this debate began, the candidates drew numbers to determine the order in which they will be speaking. Sandra Thomas is drawn number 1, Terry Bunker number 2, Susan Monty number 3, and Charles Baum number 4. They will each give an opening statement of up to 2 minutes. Then they will have a 1-minute response time for each question that is asked. They will have 2 minutes again at the closing of the debate to make closing statements. The candidate who speaks first during the opening statements will speak last during the closing statements. A timekeeper is seated in the front row and will display cards indicating when there are 30 seconds, 10 seconds left, or when it's time to stop. And if the candidates keep on talking, you may honk a horn. You don't want that to happen. As the moderator, I will start off asking the first question, and I will direct it initially to the candidate who drew number 1. Then the other candidates will get a turn to answer in the order in which they have drawn. After that, I will open it up to questions from the audience from Missouri Press Association members. If you wish to ask a question, we'd ask you to get out of your seat and go to the microphone that is placed in the center aisle. When it's your turn, I'll call on you. And if you could, please identify yourself by your name and the media outlet you represent before asking the question. Just one other ground rule: no applause, cheering, or booing until the debate concludes. With that, I think we're ready to start. Sandra, you've drawn the first number. You may deliver your opening statement.
Thank you, David. There's a lot at stake this election cycle, and that's why I'm running for state auditor. I'm tired of politicians who've used this office as a stepping stone to run for higher office. Taxpayers of Missouri deserve better than that. My education and experience as county auditor make me uniquely qualified to serve as state auditor. I have bachelor's and master's degrees in accounting. I've also served as Platte County Auditor, one of Missouri's fastest growing counties, for 12 years. In that role, I led an office which was not complying with standards under my Democrat predecessor to an award-winning office in just 2 short years after taking office. Since then, we have won the Government Finance Officers Association's National Certificate of Achievement for 9 consecutive years. I've also been named the Outstanding CPA in Government by the Missouri Society of Certified Public Accountants. Additionally, I've held every leadership role in the Missouri Association of County Auditors and have served as the Accounting Careers Chairman of the Missouri Society of Certified Public Accountants and also serve on the Legislative Committee. I am also the treasurer of Hillcrest Ministries, an organization that strives to bring homeless families to self-sufficiency. I have a husband, James. We've been married for 20 years. We also have 2 daughters, Shannon and Ann. This race is about qualifications, competence, and most importantly, restoring professionalism to the state auditor's office. My record is that of a tough, independent auditor who gets things done. Voters have a clear choice in November. If they want an award-winning, accomplished auditor, they should vote for me.
Thank you, Sandra. Terry, it's your turn.
Good morning. My name is Terry Bunker. I'm the Progressive Party candidate for Missouri State Auditor. I have a college degree in accounting, and I have approximately 12 years of accounting experience, both for municipal government as well as in the private industry. As state auditor, I would be independent of both major political parties. Many of the state agencies, boards, and commissions, which are to be audited by the state auditor, are actually run by Democrats and Republicans. To be truly independent and effective as state auditor and auditing these agencies, the state auditor should be neither a Republican nor a Democrat. As state auditor, I would not be beholden to either of the two institutionalized political parties, nor any corporate influence. Some areas where I would begin my work as state auditor are performance audits of state agencies to determine if these agencies are responsive to the needs of the taxpayers, not to the corporations, or especially to make sure that they're not more responsive to the needs of the corporations. Energy audits of state buildings and vehicles. This would to ensure that the taxpayers' money is being spent efficiently and effectively, to make sure that Missouri is not dependent on fossil fuels, help reduce the causes of global warming, and with the goal of providing sustained job growth. I have also been accountants for and treasurer of some nonprofit organizations. I've been to several audits myself. I have experience in auditing, and I have established. Yellow sign. So I have established a record of integrity and honesty, and that is my main focus.
Thank you, Terry. Susan, it's your turn.
Thanks. Good morning. I am Susan Monty, and I'm really pleased to be here and get a chance to talk to you guys about my qualifications and about the candidacy for state auditor. I have been a licensed CPA for more than 20 years. In addition to that, I'm an attorney and I'm an auditor in Buchanan County. Now, this is a combination of unique skills that are necessary in today's state auditor office. Things have changed. You guys know that more than anybody because your responsibility is to give the public information. As state auditor, I view my job as protecting the public's right to know. In that, you and I will be working together a lot, and I do plan to work together with you because I believe I'm going to be the next state auditor, and I'm going to work really hard to get there. So when I talk about protecting the public's right to know, I'm talking about a strong commitment to performance audits. This is making these audits accountable to the public and basing these things on facts. Facts alone. Now, these performance audits in recent history have been a wonderful tool. We have seen and identified failed child abuse hotlines, kids stuck in troubled foster care, sexual predators unaccounted for, and sunshine law problems with governments who don't really know who's in charge. And we know who's in charge. It's us, you, me, the press, and the citizens of Missouri. We need to have performance audits, and I'm going to be the one who brings those to you. I will work very hard with rural counties like my own and balance their needs with those of the urban areas. We will help solve problems, but in addition to that, we will point out costly mistakes, like the cuts in Medicaid that cost millions, hundreds and millions of dollars of federal taxpayer monies by Missouri citizens sent over to other states. We'll identify these problems. It's going to take an auditor who has the abilities, but also is strong-willed, determined, and independent. I'm going to be that auditor, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Susan. Charles, your turn.
Yes, wow, it's some impressive candidates here. I'm Charles Baum. I'm a Libertarian candidate for state auditor. I'd like to thank the Missouri Press Association for hosting this event. Not all places give all the candidates, give the viewers the opportunity to see all the candidates. And I think that's important, especially today where partisan politics has played such a key role. I agree with Terry that a Republican or Democrat cannot be unencumbered. They cannot be unbiased in doing the job of the state auditor. The state auditor is often involved in difficult tasks. It's not necessarily a likable position. We have to often talk about eliminating programs. We have to look for waste and fraud. We are doing things that are unpopular. I agree with Sandra, it can't be a stepping stone because it's not a job where our job is to make friends. Our job is to try and figure out where we can cut out waste. The Libertarian Party stands for smaller government. The problem with the government today is it's gotten bigger and bigger from not only the state level, but the federal level. We need to stop that some way, and you're not going to stop it by voting Democrat or Republican. It's government bigger and bigger because of its political partisan. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. We will now move to the question portion of our debate. I'll ask the first question, and if those of you have questions in mind, you may want to approach the microphone near the end of our answer so we can speed the process up. The first question is directed to you initially, Sandra, and then the others will answer. Some of you on stage are already county auditors or certified public accountants. In fact, I think all of you may be accountants. Does it matter if the state auditor is a certified public accountant? And if so, should that be a mandatory qualification in the state constitution?
I believe it is very important that the state auditor be a CPA. And the reason is because the state auditor's office is responsible for auditing the state departments, the state officials, the smaller counties in the state, as well as setting up the accounting systems for the state. So it's very important that we have a CPA running that office. The office consists of about 135 employees. 2/3 of them are CPAs. You need someone who understands the jargon and lingo of those folks. I would say that there should be a constitutional amendment to make the state auditor have to be a CPA. It's very important that we have a CPA in that post.
Terry?
I am not a CPA. I believe in, for the sake of full disclosure and honesty, I admit that. But I've been an accountant for in excess of 12 years. While I have certainly no qualms with someone applying and passing the CPA's professional certification examination, I don't think it should be an absolute main principal criterion for determining someone is eligible for the position of state auditor or not. I work with a lot of accountants, most of whom are not CPAs. I consider them very competent accountants. I envision, for example, Enron, how many people that work for Arthur Anderson who were CPAs and like what happened to them. The main line of defense is someone who's honest, has absolute unequivocal integrity, and who will ask not just any question, but the right questions. You want someone who is independent and will perform their job in an objective and honest manner. And that should be the principal focus. And that is what I am going to focus on doing if I'm elected.
Susan?
Thank you. Yes, this year I do believe you should elect a CPA. I also think you should elect an attorney. So I think it's so much more than just being a CPA. I don't support a constitutional change to make that mandatory. I do believe that having a CPA indicates that you have the right type of training. But I've known some wonderful accountants in private government who could also do this job. And when I talked in the beginning about what it takes to do this job, it is so much more than just accounting for the money. It is efficiencies. It is something that is so much more than that. The performance audits that I referred to are something that you just can't do with just a CPA. It isn't a matter of knowing the numbers. These are analytical things. These need access issues. These are legal issues. And I think that the best combination is a CPA and an attorney.
Charles?
I guess if I were a CPA and an attorney, I would feel the same way. I'm not either. We have plenty of CPAs at our disposal. I have a background in finance, accounting background. I do financial planning for a job. I've helped people to manage their own money. I think that brings some fresh air to the Department of State Auditor. Perhaps if our states managed money like our individuals have to, we'd be in a lot better shape. And that's what I will try to bring, that kind of budgetary restraints that all of us as individuals have that somehow the state and federal government doesn't seem to acknowledge.
All right, we will now take questions from the audience. Go ahead and remember to identify yourself and your media affiliation.
Good morning, thank you for coming. My name is Gary Southnicki. I'm publisher of the Vandalia Leader in Audrain County. Many of us represent newspapers in rural counties, and our dealings with the state auditor's office primarily are when you come to our county for audits of county government, which I believe the state law requires every 4 years. Over the past 20 years, different administrations in the auditor's office have audited rural counties as frequently as every 2 years. The current administration does the complete audit every 4 years. How often are we going to see your auditing staffs in our rural counties?
Terry, this question goes to you first.
Well, the law requires any, as I understand it, any county that does not have an elected auditor to be audited every 4 years, once every 4 years. So that would be the minimum that I would have an audit team come to the particular county. I am a resident originally from a small rural county, actually the smallest county in the state of Missouri, Worth County. And so, this is the county that's struggling with some financial problems. It would also depend on what the people wanted. If there was a petition or the voters decided that the audit should be done, I would certainly follow through on that and appease their wishes, or follow through and try to make sure that the auditing and the financials are in order. It also depends on what the result of the audit was. If I found reasons to believe that there needed to be more frequent audits, I would certainly do that. And I wouldn't commit to a particular time frame, depends on the circumstances. I would be flexible and do whatever was necessary to make sure that the financials were in good order.
Susan, your turn.
Well, the change from 2 years to 4 years came about because the associate judges or associate commissioners went from 2-year terms to 4-year terms, which allows you to change to a 4-year audit cycle. Right now, the state auditor's office is down in terms of the numbers of people working there. So there are scarce resources. Something I talked about from the beginning of this race, though, is trying to make some stopgap measures to help the smaller counties. I am from a smaller county. I go to the MAC conference and everyone complains about by the time the auditor comes in, we already have significant problems. So what we have to do is have some kind of a liaison system, so we're working with the smaller counties, the rural counties. That's what I was referring to in my opening statement, where I said we need to balance the interests. There's a lot of need out there in the rural counties, and I'm going to institute some measures to help them.
Charles.
I think that sounded great. I can go along with that. A lot of these issues I am not as familiar with as I would be once I'm elected to that office. And I would be addressing those issues there again on more, I would think, particular things where I saw the need be and fulfill the need. Okay.
Sandra.
I think it's very important that the state auditor's office fulfill the constitutional duties of auditing those counties every 4 years. But I do agree that there are times when the state auditor needs to come in more often, and it would depend on the circumstances. However, I would like to institute some changes in the state auditor's office as well that would help some of the smaller counties be able to do their jobs better and hopefully have more access to the state auditor's office so that they don't have as many problems early on.
Thank you. We're ready for the next question.
I'm Jeff Schrog with the Daily Events in Springfield. Right now, the way the audit system works is if abuse is found by the state auditor, the auditor has no ability to bring any type of prosecution forward. How do you feel about that? Do you have any plans to work with other prosecutorial bodies or entities in the state when you do find abuse as state auditor?
This question goes first to you, Susan.
Well, I'd like to address it more on a broader scale than just criminal prosecutions, because most of the problems that the auditor finds aren't criminal. I know that you're probably referring to your municipal court. But what we've got is a systematic problem in instituting audit findings. If any of you looked at the nursing home audit that was released yesterday, you will find that the audit recommendations from the last 3 administrations have not been followed. So it isn't a partisan issue. It doesn't have anything to do with who's in charge. It's how government works. And if we have 3 governors worth of administrations that aren't following any audit recommendations, there's a problem. So what we need to do is work together with the press, with you guys. We need to call on our legislatures. We need to have more give and take with people to try to get these things changed. A lot of things can be changed through the legislation efforts if we're all working for the same goal of eliminating waste and abuse and working towards making a more efficient dollar. So these are problems, and I'm sure going to try to address them.
Charles.
Once again, I find myself agreeing with my opponent. I think he expresses it very well. Yes, I think that the auditor should have more authority, not less, in terms of pursuing not only like the fraud issues or waste is, and actually having the ability to be more forceful in recommendations of closing down programs. I mean, the libertarians very much stand for less government, getting rid of programs that are increasingly run by the bureaucrats and the bureaucracy see that benefit from them. And often these programs are not serving the people, they're serving the bureaucrats. Thank you.
Sandra?
I would say that the state auditor's office does have some authority to end some of the problems with governments. Working with the Press Association is certainly one of those ways. It's very important that the state auditor make those recommendations known to the public so that they can use their influence to help make some of these things happen. Susan's right that there are some problems that have gone on for a long time, and those are issues that need to be addressed. And the only way, if it's gone on for quite some time and through several audits, is to make it known to the press, and that is something that I would think that the state auditor should be doing.
Terry?
If I get the results of an audit detected, if there's any signs of wrongdoing, the first thing I'd want to do, or would do, is eliminate the problem, bring it to an end, and then take steps to rectify the situation, prevent it from happening again. Then I would work with local officials, local prosecutors, whomever, to challenge or go after those who have committed wrongdoing. And then make sure that the steps that were initiated to resolve the issue, prevent it from happening again, were implemented and carried through. And I think it'd be important to bring full disclosure to the area, to the citizens that are affected, so that they can be aware of what is going on and what is taking place. And so then they can decide for themselves, if they decided to, what they should be done or what they would like to have done. Certainly I would make sure that the problem was eliminated as quickly as possible and do what I could to prevent it from happening again.
Thank you. We're ready for the next question. I'll throw one out there myself then. A couple of you mentioned in your opening statements performance audits. There has been some dispute between the current auditor and the current governor's administration about whether the auditor has the legal authority to do performance audits in addition to traditional financial audits. Do you believe the state auditor has this power legally to conduct performance audits? And do you think it's appropriate to do so? Charles, this question goes first to you.
I don't know whether they have that legal authority at this time or not. I'm not an attorney, I'll wait for Susan has to say to that. But I certainly think they should have that authority, yes. I think that it should be part of the auditor's job to look at performance and evaluate the performance of programs.
Sandra?
Well, politics has no place in the state auditor's office. And I would say that a lot of people have come to see performance audits as a political audit. That being said, I would say that performance audits are an important function of the state auditor's office. They just need to not have a political focus. What they need to do is be fair, and people need to use them to actually benefit the state's interests.
Terry?
I think this exemplifies a perfect example of why the auditor should be independent of any outside influence. And as a Progressive Party member, that's what I would bring to this Office of State Auditor is independent, objective auditing. I would focus on performance audits. I think it's something that should be done. If the state auditor does not have that authority, then I feel that they should be given the authority, and I would work to be granted that authority, because I think it's important that the government, state government in this case, be held accountable to the taxpayers. The people are paying the money. So yes, I think performance audits are essential to make sure that government is responsive to the needs of the taxpayers.
Susan?
Well, I absolutely believe that the statutory authority for performance audits exists right now. I also believe that if we run into more access issues the way that this administration did a couple of years ago on performance audits, that we could bring a referendum, and I think the taxpayers would come down on the side of performance audits. I cited just a few examples of things that have been wonderful tools in evaluating efficiencies of the government. Some of those and most of those are triggered by the press. Something happens, you guys bring it forward, we look at it in the state auditor's office and say something needs to be done about it. That would be the child abuse hotline example. So it is something that is an essential part of what the taxpayers have come to expect and deserve. We have to do these audits because we deserve it as Missourians to have most efficient government that we can possibly have, and performance audits are a measure of that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
Bill Miller, Washington, Missourian. I'd like to direct this to Mrs. Thomas, but also to the other panelists. You said that you wanted to restore professionalism in the office. Are you saying that we do not have professionalism right now in the auditor's office?
Susan, it is your, Sandra, it's your turn to go first, so.
Yeah. Well, Bill, I would say that the state auditor's office has been playing a lot of politics in the last few years. The audits have been focused more on where people could use them for their own political gain. And I think it's very important that we have a fair system in the state auditor's office where we treat everybody the same. I think that it's very important that the state auditor not play politics, that you go into the governor's office the same way you would into any other office holder, regardless of party. And I think that's what I mean by bringing professionalism back to the office.
Terry?
I, again, stress that this is why the state auditor's position needs to have an auditor who's independent from any corporate influence and from any outside political influence. And the state auditor, that's what I would endeavor to do, is be as objective, equitable, and independent of any influences in trying to detect any wrongdoing, and once so detected, do everything in my power to see this resolved and fixed and it never happens again.
Susan?
Well, I think the office has been conducted professionally. I think that there's an awful lot of audits out there that nobody sees. The ones that we see are the exciting ones, the hot button items, the mostly performance audits that are something that people want to read about. You guys could report on all of the audits in Worth County, 900 voters there, so it is small. I agree with Terry that it needs to be an independent person in the office, and that would help with some of the issues with politics. Now, I don't think independence, though, is a matter of party. It isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. It's who can be independent from the administration. And certainly this administration is playing a lot of politics. And so I believe it takes someone who has the skills to work with all people involved for the common goal. So I believe it's a professional office now, but I think it's going to be a professional office when I'm in there as well.
Charles?
Well, for once, I disagree with Susan. I think it's naive to believe that if you're a member of either the Republican or Democratic Party that you can be independent. I don't think that that's the case. I think both of those political groups, the machinery is so big and so large that it's almost impossible to be part of that without being part of it. And therefore, I think it would compromise that independence and objectivity.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm the news director for the local radio station here, and I had a question for all of you related to a topic that's happening in Camden County right now.
Your name, please.
My name's Michael McSorley. I'm sorry. I would like to know, Claire McCaskill had an audit in February of this year where she audited the solid waste management district, and there were some problems with some administration of funds. And we're in almost October now, and I'm still kind of interested to see how the state auditor's office is going to handle it. There's been some back and forth between them and DNR and the Attorney General's office, and I'm curious if you, as all brand new candidates, would know off the top of your head how you might make the process a little bit smaller. As you guys have an opinion about something gets done. It's taken quite a while for this problem to be handled, and it's complicated other problems that we're dealing with the Lake of the Ozarks Council of Local Governments here in town. So my question for you is there any way to get these processes quicker and bring DNR, the Attorney General, everybody, instead of being on either side of what issue, can we bring everybody together and get something done in the state of Missouri instead of, and it's with your office as well. I mean, you bring up the question of Democrat, Republican. I mean, can we all just work on something together and forget the politic part of it and get something done for the people of the state?
Terry, you're first.
I would do everything in my power to resolve the issue as soon as possible. Again, I would be independent of any political influence, any corporate influence, and if I found wrongdoing, I would work as hard and quickly as I could to bring all the parties involved together so we can get the problem fixed. And then again, just make sure that there's standard operating procedures, or whatever it takes to keep the issue or prevent the issue from happening again. If you find something going wrong, fix it and try to keep it from happening again. Susan?
On the same page. We should be able to work together to make those things happen, but I'd like to say I could make the process quicker. I'd like to say that any one of us could come in and do something about that, but with the way that things work these days, that's not gonna happen unless we get everybody involved, a lot of outrage, and that's what I'm gonna try to do in getting audit recommendations accepted by the legislature. I'm just gonna yell and scream about it, and so your issue, I just yell and scream about it.
Charles?
Yes, and as I was saying before, it's not a popular position, state auditor. I'm known for my efficiency. I think we need somebody that can be direct, to shout and scream a lot and get things done. And anytime you're dealing with the bureaucracy, state institutions, it's difficult. And we need somebody who can't worry about being popular or playing politics, but can get to the matter and do it without worrying about it being a stepping stone to some other place or whatever. And that's what I would look forward to.
Sandra?
It is a bogged down system. It's going to be very difficult to get some things done to get everybody on the same page. But it is very important that the state auditor do everything in her power to make sure that people are aware of the situation and to yell and scream about it and get things done, and have the public also make those comments too is very important.
Thank you. I'm going to throw in a question here. Sandra Thomas and Susan Monteith, your campaigns have at times each essentially accused the other of being incompetent for bookkeeping mistakes or other sorts of oversights. But this question can still be answered by all the candidates. Standing here, or sitting here, I guess, as you are, face to face, do you assert that any of your opponents are incompetent to perform the job of state auditor, and why? You're up, Susan.
Is that me? Good. Well, you know, earlier in the statements I said I was going to let the facts speak for themselves, and I will let the facts speak for themselves. In Platte County, I never had a statement or anything to say about what was going on in Platte County until after an independent auditor attributed the problems in Platte County to auditing mistakes out of the auditor's office. The facts speak for themselves also in Buchanan County, where I had no jurisdiction over any kind of private accounts, and everyone involved, including the Republican head of the County Auditors Association, the judge, the prosecutor, said it didn't have anything to do with me. Those are the facts. The facts are, y'all were handed a press release today to say, hey, we keep our books on a cash basis. You know what? We do keep our books on a cash basis. Us, half of the first and second class counties, and all 89 of the counties that would be under the state auditor's office. It is an accepted method of accounting, and you can look in your handy Miller's Gap Guide that you probably all have at home. I just think that we can talk about what we bring to the office, and that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Charles.
I'm sorry, what was?
The question was whether you considered any of the other opponents up here to be incompetent to do the job of state officer, state auditor.
I would never consider any of them to be incompetent. And by the way, keep in mind, the state auditor has access to CPAs and all the competence they need. What we need is someone that can be unbiased and will take a leadership position and will get something done. And it's the integrity and the lack of being encumbered or being attached to anything is what's going to give that person the freedom. I have the confidence out there, the CPAs, and at my fingertips in terms of doing the audits I need and so forth. We're really looking for someone that has leadership, that has the voters' interest in mind, and can pursue them.
Sandra.
I believe competence is an issue with this race. The facts in Platte County are that we had an outside audit like we have every single year, and that there was a discrepancy that was found, but no missing money. We have taken care of that discrepancy, and that's the auditors doing a good job making sure that discrepancies are taken care of. In Buchanan County, they do use a method of accounting that is not considered generally accepted accounting principles, and it causes them to have a qualified opinion on their financial statements, which can be an issue because it can lower your bond rating and could cause other problems like that. I think it's very important. It does speak about competency. When I first took office as county auditor, our financial statements did not comply with generally accepted accounting principles, and we brought them up to speed very quickly in my term of office.
Terry.
I have absolutely no reason to believe that any of the other candidates are not incompetent. But rather, I said that they're not, as far as I know, they're as competent as anyone could expect them to be. I want to make sure. So I'd rather focus on those issues, I want to focus what I can bring to the office of the state auditor. And that's focused on being objective and being as honest and as good of an auditor as I can be and focus on the issues. Again, I have no reason to believe that they would not make good auditors. I have no reason to believe they would not make good auditors, and I think that they're all capable. I'm going to focus on the issues.
Thanks. Other questions from the audience?
Don Corrigan, Webster Kirkwood Times in St. Louis. I assume all of you are at least partly motivated by outrages that you've seen and misuse of public money. What do you see, or what have you seen in your history of studying this position as the most egregious kind of outrage of use of the public tax money?
This question goes first to you, Charles.
Outside of just the size of government and the increasing amounts that we all have to pay for taxes, I don't know that I can single out any particular aspect that's more than others. I think there's undoubtedly a lot of waste within the bureaucracy, as I have seen with most government institutions and so forth. I don't know that I can pick out one thing that would be particularly bothersome.
Sam?
I would say there are a lot of things that I have seen in state government that outrage me, but probably the most recent incident that I've seen that has really upset me has been the Springfield municipal court systems, where they found that over $1 million has walked out of that court system, and the state auditor had not been there since the year 2000. I think it's very important that we have people going into those court systems. Honestly, when I saw that issue, I was concerned about other court systems, and I think that it's a place that the state auditor needs to be spending a great deal of time, because there's a lot of cash there, and those people need help knowing how to handle that money to make sure that it doesn't walk out the door.
Terry?
One issue that comes to mind that concerns me is the electronic voting machines that are being purchased or being contemplated being purchased. I am concerned that there hasn't been enough of a cost-benefit analysis done, and I'm afraid that taxpayers are going to be held or expected to pay a large bill. And then also, I'm also concerned about the auditing process involved in elections. I think that we need to have excellent auditing and verification of elections. We need to have a paper trail. One thing I can tell you that I've learned from audits is that you need to have a paper trail, you need to have supporting documentation so you can verify what has happened and that standard operating procedures are done and everything is above the table, it's full disclosure, and I would focus on making sure that everything is done according to the law and everything is done equitably.
Susan?
Well, I have a laundry list of outrages. I referred to one in my opening statement when I said when we cut the Medicaid monies, we lost the federal dollars as well. Hundreds of millions of dollars of Missouri federal monies going to other states. That's outrageous. The second thing is the transfer of the fee offices without any kind of oversight and no bids. That's a problem. Those are the types of things I want to look into. Another thing is forward-looking. We've got all this discussion going on about the Mohelah sale. First, I'll tell you what, regardless of whether that deal goes through, you will see an audit out of my office on that entity, because we've amassed assets in there. Certainly we haven't been using the resources efficiently. If we go through with the sale deal, then we're gonna have to look at how they award these contracts and what goes on there. There's a lot of things to look at, and I'm gonna be out there working every day looking at them. Thanks.
Thank you. Another question? couple of you have mentioned that you don't want to use the auditor's office as a stepping stone. But we know that from Kit Bond to Margaret Kelly to Claire McCaskill, there has been a tendency among Missouri auditors to try to move up to higher office. If elected, would you pledge not to run for another office while serving as state auditor? Sandra, you first.
Well, I do believe that it's very important that that office not be used as a stepping stone. It's elected in the off year to help make it more independent. And if you're using the office to run for another office, you can't keep the politics out of that office. So I would say that I will not run for another office while I am holding the office of state auditor.
Terry.
I would, if elected as state auditor, serve full-time as state auditor. I have no intentions of seeking any additional office, any other office, and that I vow to you today that if I was elected state auditor, I would serve in that capacity to the full length of the term. And I am not a career politician, and I am seeking this position simply because I want to be able to, for the taxpayers of Missouri, the opportunity to vote for someone, to put someone in the office of state auditor who will be independent and objective and do the best job possible to make sure that all financial proceedings or aspects of the public trust is adhered to and done in an honest manner.
Susan.
Well, I certainly don't consider myself a career politician. I never ran for anything until I was almost 40. So I look ahead to this office. I'm running for this office. I plan to get this office. I plan to run again for it in 4 years if I'm doing a good job and the people elect me. I'm really proud to have been able to step up and run for this office this year. I do think I bring the right skills for it, and that's what I'm concentrating on. I believe my skill set is uniquely qualified for the state auditor's office. That's what I want to do, and that's why I'm here asking for your support.
Charles.
It should be obvious by now I'm not a politician. I'm not going for political popularity. I'm taking this because I want to give voters an alternative, somebody that can be objective. So yes, you have my word, I will not be running for any other office.
Go ahead.
Dave Berry, I'm with 8 community newspapers in Southwest Missouri. Common practice of the previous auditors in performing an audit, for example, of the county commission, has been to perform the audit, come back and have a private meeting, present the findings to the commission, give them the opportunity to answer those, and then the press and the public get to see a report of that. What we don't get to see is the sweat. And I'd be interested in knowing if each of you plan to continue that process or whether you would meet in open and let us see what see how the people answer the questions and answer the charges, and not just be able to read it and report later without seeing their emotion.
Terry, you're first.
Well, in the field of accountancy, there is a doctrine of full disclosure, and I would adhere to that in every way possible. I feel strongly about that. I would make sure that the public is aware of everything that's in every aspect of any audit. I believe that everything should be above board, and as a steward or custodian of the taxpayers' money, I would want to make sure that the people feel confident that the auditing work was being done professionally and as quickly as possible, and that we were truly trying to determine if there was any wrongdoing, and if any wrongdoing was done, that all steps were implemented as expeditiously as possible to solve the problem and make sure the problem or any wrongdoing is ever done again. Make sure that the issues that are discovered or any wrongdoing is prevented or eliminated.
Susan.
Well, certainly I believe in full and open disclosure and open meetings. But when we're talking about these audit findings, I'm talking about the facts speaking for themselves. I do want to suggest that when the auditor's office brings in a set of questions and has private meetings sometimes with the commissioners, it's in an effort to make sure that the facts are actually facts and that there are explanations for those. I just think we have to be very careful when we're having problems presented to the public in a way that may or may not be misleading. That said, once we have figured out whether there are any issues that may be misleading, I think everything has to be out to the public, including issues that may have had to have clarification. I know that there are certain closed meeting laws that may or may not be being followed. If there are issues that have to be followed inside a closed meeting, inside the sunshine laws, those can be done. But I think that our big goal here is to make sure that everybody understands the sunshine law and understands when they can't have closed meetings, and then we would all be better off in knowing what's going on in these meetings.
Charles?
Yeah, I think that openness is certainly very desirable. I think it's unconscionable that so many of the recommendations of the state auditors have not been carried out. We need the public interest. If we don't have the public interest, a lot of this work, as has been mentioned, where auditors make recommendations and then they're not followed. They're not followed because the public is not as involved. If they were, then they could be followed. So whatever we can do to more implement some of the changes that would be needed would be, I think, beneficial.
Sandra?
Openness is very important in disclosure of the findings of the audit. But it is also very important that we talk with the people who are in charge in those counties to make sure that we do really understand what is going on and that we're not reporting something erroneously. So it's very important that some of those meetings do be held at least in a quiet area to make sure that things are done correctly. Sunshine laws need to be followed, obviously. It's very important that once those findings are given to the public, that they're given to the press as well, and that people know about the issues that there are in those counties.
Thank you. Are there more questions from the audience? Okay, go ahead.
This one will be quick, I promise. The follow-up to that, what you just said, shouldn't there be between, between the county commission and the auditor's office, shouldn't there be accepted way to do things, and then that be it? And then if you come in and you say you're not doing things the right way, that should be enough from my perspective, from your office, to say that, because that's your job. And I would say the faith would be more with you as a state office, having a consensus opinion about what cities are doing or what counties are doing, and then kind of, and the reason I say that is because there seems to be a lot of closed door, a lot of stuff going on in counties that people don't pay a lot of attention to. So my question is, don't you think there should be a way for you guys to bring the sunshine law down here and do what I would think would be your job as auditor?
Susan?
Is that mine? Good. Because I'm all about the sunshine law. I've been talking about it ever since we came in here. Absolutely. If you read any of the performance audits on the sunshine law, you will find that most of the counties are not fully compliant with the sunshine law. Most of them don't even understand it. A big part of what we need to do, and it's not just us, because it's you guys too, you're the ones that are affected by problems with the sunshine law application. The thing is, it's an education. It's an education that needs to be done on the county level. I don't think that most of the counties are having closed meetings in an effort to keep everything secret, but they don't have a full understanding of what is required under the sunshine law and how much things can be talked about inside and outside the meetings. Even when they close meetings, those audit reports show that even if they close meetings for permitted uses, they're talking about other things inside the meeting that they shouldn't be. I think it's a matter of getting the counties to be educated, and I would like to have that be a part of our county audit on the local levels, is to talk about sunshine law compliance as well.
Charles?
Yeah, I've already decided that when I'm elected, I will have Susan as my assistant. Yes, I agree, there should be a process. It needs to be fired. Everything she said sounded good to me.
Sandra?
It's very important that counties comply with the sunshine law and that things are brought to light to the press. But it is a problem that a lot of counties have. They don't understand the sunshine law as well as they should. And so they need to be educated more, and it is something that the state auditor's office can do to help those people understand the sunshine law a little bit better. I know that there are lots of forums that are provided for people in county positions and in other positions to find out about the sunshine law, and it's very important that those people understand them, and the state auditor's office can help with that. And if I'm elected state auditor, I think that we should make those things available to those people and help them as much as possible so that they do comply with the sunshine law.
Terry?
I would make sure that the sunshine laws are being adhered to, and I would try to act as liaison between the county commission or whoever's involved and the local citizens to make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on and that the issues at hand can be worked out to the success or the satisfaction of everyone, so that there is no sense or that is absolutely no cover-ups, and so that everyone is assured that full disclosure is being followed.
Okay, this will be the last question of today's debate. If elected, what is the first thing you would do upon taking office? Charles?
Celebrate, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know enough about the ins and outs of the office. I would have to find that out if I were elected. The first thing I would do is find out about the state auditor's office, what's out there, what, get boned up on what I'll be doing.
Sandra?
The first thing I would do as state auditor is set a 4-year audit plan. First, we would make sure that we are complying with all of the statutes. And then after that, we would look at risk. And what I mean by that is we would look at the areas where most of the money is spent in tax dollars. We need to make sure that most of our tax dollars are covered. There are limited resources in the state auditor's office, so you have to pick and choose. The areas where most of our money is spent are Medicaid, education, conservation, and MoDOT. Those are areas where the state auditor's office should be concentrating beyond the statutory duties.
Terry?
I would call it a meeting of the staff, and I'm sure that we have a very competent staff, and I asked them, please tell me what you think I need to know. Are there any outstanding issues? Is there anything that needs to be done to improve the Office of State Auditor? And relying on their experience that they've acquired, then go forward and focus on what they feel we need to do. But I also want to stress that there would be a high degree of professionalism. I want to stress that we're going to fulfill the duties of the Office of State Auditor to the highest standards, and that we would do everything in our power to fulfill the duties of State Auditor with an independent, objective perspective.
Susan?
Well, I've been talking in general about the types of audits I do and the type of things that we would do functioning, but as an office, I did want to mention, Terry talked about bringing together the staff. There are some issues with the staff. There are some ways that we can do things to make things better for the staff. This current administration has done a lot of work in trying to create some diversity there, but there's still a lot of diversity issues within the state auditor's office. I would make it a goal to try to increase the diversity, to try to have more minorities in the office. We do have actually a lot of women, but not the other minorities. So I would like to work towards a staff that looks a little bit more like the makeup of the state. That said, we also want to make opportunities for people to become CPAs, become more in tune with the accounting profession. That's something that we as accountants, as CPAs, are having industry-wide. We need to attract people to it. Yeah, we need to try to tell them it's glamorous, but it's some issues that we're having, attracting and keeping competent staff, and I think we'll do goals for that.
Thank you. It's now time for our closing statements. Charles, you are first, and we have 2 minutes each.
This is the first office I've ever run for, and the reason I ran for it is I really have some very grave concerns about our whole political process. I chose the Libertarians because, well, I used to be a Democrat when I thought Democrats were for the working man. Then I found out that they're not really for the working man. They just pretend to be that so they can get votes. Then I decided that maybe the Republicans, they were for a smaller government. And then I found out, certainly with this last president, that they're not for smaller government at all. We've all witnessed over the last 30 or 40 years, and I see some of you out there have been around that long, we've seen government grow bigger and bigger and bigger. As it grows in size, it grows in power. As it grows in power, it grows in corruption. Power corrupts. And the more powerful our government has become, the more corrupt it has become. I'm not talking about the state auditor's office here, but we gotta start somewhere, and we need change. And the only way we're gonna get change, in my opinion, is to vote Libertarian. If you vote Republican or Democrat, you're gonna get the same thing. They both eat out of the same trough. One's on the right side, one's on the left side. We need change. And the only way I can see that change now is to vote not Republican or Democrat. So don't throw away your vote. Vote Libertarian. Thank you.
Susan?
I do want to address the political party question. I did have a little final closing remarks, and I think I'm just going to possibly talk just for a minute about what we talked about here today. It is more than party. I think I said that earlier. This office takes the right type of person, and I don't think it matters what party they are. I do think that the person in this office, if they are an independent, strong-willed, determined person that can stand up when they need to, but knows how to work with people when they need to, is the right person for this job, and I really think that I am that person. I think it takes the combination of skills that I said I had earlier. I do believe that we would all be better off if we're all working towards the performance goals that we get in these performance audits. What we have to do is ensure access to information. And that's why I'm so big on the Sunshine Law, and I'm sure you guys are as well. Because the issues that we have in performance audits, the issues we have in getting out the word on efficiencies is all about access. These are all legal issues. And the reason that you need to have an attorney in the office as well as a CPA is just that. There are so many issues that are of a legal nature that affect this office. From the funding formula for the schools right now that's still in litigation, to the challenges to the fiscal notes, access issues I've talked about. These are difficult times for our state. We are trying to make more with less. And when we are doing that, we need to have everything we can at our disposal in our elected officials. And what I'm talking about is qualifications and experience. I believe the combination of being a CPA and being an attorney is what we have to have if we're going to proceed on in times where we're trying to make more with less. I know, I come from a county that's small, that is delivering governmental services on a limited budget. Yes, we keep our books on a cash basis, and we do that because it is the best way for small local governments to communicate to the citizens. And you'll see that if you go out and look it up. It's all a matter of choosing the right person, and I believe I'm the right person. And I want to thank you so much for having me here today.
Terry?
I want to thank the press corps for showing up. I think it's absolutely imperative in a democracy that we have a vibrant, objective, truth-seeking press. So I commend you for coming. If I'm elected, I pledge that I will serve as a full-time state auditor with absolutely no intentions of seeking any other office. I will not use the state auditor's office as a stepping stone to any other political office. As I've said before, I am not a career politician. This is the first public office I've ever sought. As state auditor, to reiterate, I would be independent of any political influence, separate, distinct from both major political parties. I will not accept any large PAC money or corporate influence would not be an issue if I was state auditor. We need to focus on the issues, and as steward or custodian of the people's money, taxpayers' money, I would do my utmost to see that it is spent efficiently and effectively. And whenever I encountered or any of our audits, any of the staff of the state auditor's office detected or had any reason to believe that there's any wrongdoing, I would take immediate steps to resolve the issue expeditiously and install or implement steps that would make sure that the wrongdoing was eliminated immediately and do everything to make sure that the wrongdoing or the issues that were discovered were prevented from happening and eliminated. Thank you.
Sandra?
It's a very important year and a very important decision that we have to make this November. We can elect someone who will carry on with politics as usual in the state auditor's office, or we can elect someone who will make some changes in that office. I have a plan to set a 4-year audit plan for the office, and also to look at areas where state government has not had audits in the recent past. We need to make sure that we are auditing the things that need to be audited to protect the citizens of Missouri. I will go in and aggressively seek out waste, fraud, and abuse in state government. That is what we need in the state auditor's office. I have a 12-year record as a county auditor in Platte County, winning national awards for 9 consecutive years. Also have been very involved in the Missouri Society of Certified Public Accountants and have a lot of friends in that organization. It's very important that we have someone who understands all of the things that go on in the state auditor's office to be the state auditor. However, I would disagree that we need to have an attorney in there. Perhaps if my opponent were a business attorney, I think that that would be more helpful to that office. But it is very important that we have someone who understands the duties and the responsibility and who doesn't want to play politics. We need to work very hard to take the politics out of that office, and that is what I will do if I'm elected for your next state auditor. Thank you very much for having me here today.
On behalf of the Missouri Press Association, I want to thank each of you for appearing here today. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you much. The Senate debate will start.